Outer Orange.
Привет! I have never ever played in the original Card 5 Vanguard. It has never happened. The closest I got was 0, but I've never actually played classic Vanguard. However, in OverDress, there's quite a few kind of like revamps of old cards, and today I'll be showing you one of the decks that I've been playing basically this entire time since its release, and experiencing the world of what old Vanguard cards used to kind of, I guess, feel like in a little twist. So this is my PBO deck, and surprisingly enough, I actually haven't done a video on this, which is kind of funny because I've been playing this deck pretty much since set 5. I didn't really play it when it first released because it was pretty awful, but once basically this card came out, I've been playing it since then. But anyway, so this is a deck that I never thought I'd ever get into, but Prod kind of introduced me to it a while back, and I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with the deck, and I made a ton of meme videos on it, and yeah, here we are actually finally here with the profile. This is with as much of the new stuff possible, and I am going to be taking a break from this deck, so that's actually why I thought I'd make a video before I start unsleeving it. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it today. Before that, we of course got the deck box. I'm using the Rent a Girlfriend deck box. This is, I believe her name is Chizaru. It's been a second since I watched this show, so I don't remember exactly. I really love it. It has a really nice perfume smell inside, like no joke, it actually smells really nice because it's a Bouchard box. So there's that. And yes, I will continue to express my sniffing thing. It's just forever gonna happen. And then for ride deck sleeves, I'm actually using the Hatsune Miku ride deck sleeves. These are this is a triple sleeved ride deck actually. And yeah, I'm using these. And then for the actual deck, I'm actually using also Hatsune Miku sleeves, which are by the same people. They're just different arts. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's go ahead and talk about the actual ride line and just kind of go from there. We'll go from 3s to 2s to 1s and so on and so forth. So, and then I'll do a Mulligan run at the end. Basically, the starter does not matter. You can play whatever starter. So I'm actually choosing to play this one. I was a running joke for a while that Ren is a waifu, and this is just like his progression into waifu-ness. He starts here, and then he kind of tries to understand himself more, and then he becomes a woman. And I actually put like straight up like a chest on him. And anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I made a whole joke about it a long time ago. It was a big running joke for a bit. But basically, your starter doesn't matter. You can play whatever here because I run this specific ride line. Now, some people run the Blaster, the Majesty Lord Blaster ride line, which is the Wingo Brave into the Maroon. The reason why I don't is I think Soul is actually important with this deck because of one singular card, and it's actually this one right here. Because of how this deck works, you actually want like a good turn 2 rush, and you need the Soul. If you whip with the Wingo Brave and you end up calling it to the back row, you actually lose out on one your soul in case you open 2 of these. And then the other reason is the effect lets you search for blasters, but she searches for blasters too, so you don't really want to whip as much with her, and in my opinion, I just think this is just better. And the only downside is you can't run orders with this card because the orders will disappear and you lose the effect of the Blaster Dark, so that's the only thing to be careful of. But aside from that, I think this is just better. But anyway, so we're running the Javelin. Basically, Javelin says when he's rode upon by Blaster Dark, you can basically call the top card as rest, so you call something like this as rest, and then what happens is you get to then use this effect to then counterblast, retire something on your opponent's side, and then you get to get Twin Drive. So basically this becomes a Twin Drive off of just these two working off each other, and it's just really nice. You basically just get the effects and you kind of do your thing. And then last but not least, the last card here, Dark doesn't have any other effects aside from his rear guard effects. And then you go to this, and his effect basically says you retire. He gets extra crit if you have his other copy, basically this one in Soul. And then he has the second ability to where you retire 2, you call out Blaster Dark from Soul or Drop, and then they both get 10k if your opponent's on grade 3 or greater, and then the crit will just be active all the time no matter what. And that's basically the whole thing. That's the whole deck. It all sounds kind of like whatever on paper. The deck really shines in terms of early rush and just the crit pressure. So that's the ride line. I'm going to put to the side for a little bit. Go to our grade 3s. You definitely need Persona. This deck very relies on Persona, and we have a card that actually searches for blasters, so you definitely want to have access to these. Along with that, you definitely want the Wincon, or like the quote-unquote Wincon, the little helper. The crit is actually very massive. The Vanguard gets pretty big sometimes, so definitely want these. Some run at 3. I chose to run at 4 just because I think you really need to see this. It's kind of like you don't want to play into this all the time, but you still want to play into it. You still want this in Soul at some point. Like you don't really want to spend the whole game without this in Soul. So you definitely want to find this card. It's always good for discard fodder too if you really get too many copies. And also off of the grade 2 that searches, you can be able to call this out and stuff like that. So honestly, it's really not terrible to have this at 4. It also hits over. Sometimes you won't have boosters and things won't hit over. This will always hit over, so you can always call it and you don't feel bad for retiring it. So that's basically that. The 2s is kind of where a lot of the heavy lifting is. We'll start with Emmeline. A lot of people, of course, are having trouble getting this card because it is a promo promo and is the most expensive part about this deck currently. I have a shop that was giving these out, so I was actually able to obtain these pretty easily, luckily for me, so I didn't have to drop like a crazy amount of money on them, but they're still kind of costly. But it is a very essential card, and if you choose to play like Majesty or Blaster, you'll probably need this as well. Basically, she says when placed from hand, you can Soul Blast, so a top 5, get a blaster. You can call it to rear guard circle and just shuffle your deck, or you can put it into your hand. If you put it into your hand, discard a card, which is actually really cool because you can get your personas this way. You can get other blasters. It says any blasters and indicate which one, so it's actually pretty cool. You can just go through your blasters. You can run Javelin in the deck, like Javelin is this card right here. You can run extra blaster darks, and they'll basically become search targets, so you can just basically get your win con faster, or get cards to the board faster and kind of early rush with it. It's very cool. And her second effect says whenever a blaster attacks, she gets 5k. So basically whenever this attacks, this attacks, this attacks, any of the blasters, this attacks, you basically get she gets an additional 5k. So usually she'll go up to about 10 to 15 depending on your attack pattern, but overall just very awesome card. Very neat, very useful. Definitely it's kind of mandatory, sadly. I know it's the most expensive part, but it is mandatory, and there isn't too many replacements aside from like basically Drilling Angel. Next we have Nemain. Nemain is a very good card. Basically it says on place counterblast, put a card to soul, draw 2. What the card you'll be putting to soul will usually be this one, and if you don't have it, you'll just put something else into soul. The draw 2 is nice. It is a straight +1, so you just should keep going through your deck and just keep you know, seeing as much of your pieces as you can, because this deck's biggest weakness is Mulligan. If you Mulligan really poorly, you kind of just do nothing, and it can be very detrimental. It's actually the reason why this deck can't like skyrocket to like tier 1. There's no way to search stuff aside from this, and even this is just a top 5, and even if you run the Maroon package, it's still not enough to kind of get through the deck fast enough. So Mulligan is super important. This is the only card that basically helps you when your Mulligan sucks, so hopefully you see at least one copy of this. But yeah, it also sets up the soul, so you're pretty much good to go. But yeah, she has another effect. She gains 5k if you're a blaster. That's basically it. Vanguard blaster, so she'll always have the 5k basically. And then yeah, this is just it's just the main. It's the main doing the main things. Next we have the promo. This card used to be expensive. It actually went down. It's still pricey, but it's not like $20 to $40 pricey. I think it's around the $10 mark now. So this did go down, so this makes it a little easier to obtain now. It's not as expensive as it was, but basically this is the card that made this deck a lot better. This card makes this deck way stronger actually. So if this were to be retired by the cost of your Vanguard blaster in card name, it counts as 2. So whenever whenever your PBO, whenever he retires 2 cards, you can choose her instead, and then basically what happens is that you retire 1 for the cost of 2, which definitely saves you on hand and makes it just a lot easier to go through. But the second effect is really where she shines. Basically, when this unit is retired by the card's ability of Vanguard's card name and your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you can choose a Blaster Dark. You can choose a Blaster Dark, this one right here. So you choose the Blaster Dark, and you basically give the effect to be able to drive check, and then it retires. You have to discard a card for it, but basically he can drive check. Now you'll notice that he actually gets an extra drive whenever he retires something with this cost. So what you can do is you can on place get his ability to get the extra drive, then you can activate her skill, put her effect on him, and then he'll be swinging for 2 drives. So basically you have 4 drives a turn, which is quad drive. So your Vanguard will be swinging twice, and then Blaster Dark will be swinging for your Vanguard will be swinging for 2 drive checks, and then Blaster Dark will swing for another 2 drive checks, which gets insanely big, especially since on the other side you'll usually have this card just kind of waiting to like start attacking. So basically like you just get very lethal very fast. Under Persona this gets very insane, and then it is restricted to your opponent great 3 or greater, so you have to be cautious. There is one more thing. At the end of the turn, the Blaster Dark gets retired, and this is actually very massive because fun fact, if this gets bottom decked, you lose the game because this goes back to ride deck and you'll never get it back. You have to run extra copies to prevent that, but what you can also do is you can just keep using this effect and you'll be fine. But it is very risky having this at 1. It's actually something I've been tossing for a while, but the biggest trouble I've been having with what to do with my deck is how many copies of this to run, because the minute you start facing decks like Jet or decks like Youthberg and you're scared of getting bottom decked, and say you don't find this card in time and you still want to apply pressure, and you're already, say you're going second and you're already basically behind and you kind of need to start doing stuff. If you have to whiff on your 4th attack, it's like a big feels bad. So basically the way around is to have a second copy of Blaster Dark in your deck, but the other option is just don't call the Blaster Dark and just wait until you have this to force the retire to happen, so that way your opponent can't target it. And that's the way out basically. Before, Ava used to just buy this card, which is like another big problem, and back then this card didn't exist, so it made the deck like a lot worse too, because once this is gone again for the same situations, it's bound, it's gone, you can't utilize it anymore, which means basically this card becomes vanilla. It's probably the biggest, it's another big thing that's like kind of something to be cautious of. So this card, it's really important that way you save yourself with this. This is like super important, by the way. If you aren't careful, you can basically screw yourself out of the game and you will just lose, and it's very bad. And like I said, once this goes to Riot deck, that's it. You lose it, it's gone. You can't get it back. So, but yeah, otherwise this card's insane. It gives you 4 drive in 1 turn, on top of Persona, on top of everything getting beefy, on top of having a full board, because we have other cards that kind of help with maintaining the full board, and you're retiring stuff on your opponent's side too. It's very nuts. I run 1 Maple. This is like kind of a slot where you can put other stuff in here. Like this could be a Drilling Angel. This could be another Blaster Dark. This could be a lot of things. I'm going to show the other one too, just to make it a little easier, but I run both Maples, and this has been something I've been putting in and out for a while. I used to run just 2 of the Grade 2 Maple just to see it at a time. And then I've been, now with the new Maple out, I've been kind of tossing and turning between the 2-1 split. This deck doesn't have too many boosters, so honestly, this comes up. But I will say this is like a maybe slot. You really don't need these cards. You could probably run more of the Blaster Engine so you can hit better with Emmeline. It's up to you. It is nice to have the free body, both bodies, to be honest. This becomes a 13k booster too, which is actually really nuts. And sometimes this sometimes becomes more important than this. But if you want to retire with Dark, these are some of the best targets to choose for the retire. It saves you like having to like retire stuff you want on the board, retiring stuff you need on the board, forcing yourself to call extra cards. It does save you for hands, so this definitely can come up. But like I said, it's kind of like a high roll thing almost, because you kind of have to see it in time. You have no way to search it out. You just have to straight draw into it. And unless your Mulligan is just amazing, you usually sometimes won't see these cards for the whole game. So they're kind of an if. I'm very tempted to make these into Drillings or make these into Blaster Darks. Up to you. If you make these into Blaster Darks, you never have to worry about the matchup of like you losing your Blaster Darks, which is really nice. And honestly, I'm gonna be real, that part's really stressful, and I'm tempted to just make these Blaster Darks and just to forget about all my worries. But so since we start with the ones, we'll go into the rest of the ones here. We have Blaster Javelin in the actual deck as well. He's a 10k basically all the time. It says during your turn, if you have Vanguard Blasters, there's always a 10k. So that means even if you push him up, he instead of being a booster, he can be an attacker. He'll still be a 10k. Literally last night I was playing this deck, and funnily enough, my opponent was grade 2 gaming me with Jet, and I was grade 2 gaming back. And because I constantly had stuff to hit over, I had no problems out winning the grade 2 game. And then I just rode up and killed basically. And so funnily enough, these come up. And actually, if you run more Blaster Darks, you can grade 2 game even further, because you can retire and then get the twin drive as well. So just a little fun fact, this deck actually grade 2 games extremely well into Jet and stuff like that. If your opponent isn't careful, they'll basically lose, because you can keep retiring their stuff while they're not really retiring your stuff as much. So yes, but anyway, these are just in here as targets, and also they're 10k boosters. Behind Van, they're really good. Behind Rear they're really good. There aren't that many boosters, so these do come up. Next, we have these. This can also be other stuff. This can be either Drillings or anything else you feel kind of comfortable with running. These could be the Maples as well, and then you could put, Drilling somewhere else. These can also be more of these and more Blaster Darks. These cards are early rush cards, basically. They become 18Ks. I used to run these at 4 back in my original builds, and then I cut them back and then put them back in, because I like them. I like these cards a lot. I might honestly put these back in and just say screw it and just have it like that, just for extra targets, because I'm not gonna lie, seeing all copies of these is really nice. But these aren't too bad. They're not too bad. Like I said, the 18k does go crazy, especially if you call 2 while going second. This is like the ultimate high roll of like your opponent will probably die, because you call them out, you swing with your Van first. Even if they hit a defense, these still hit over. And the next turn you have basically a Vanguard with twin drive on it, and then you have Emmeline coming out and all this other stuff, and it gets just very insane. I read 4 regular perfect guards because of that thing I told you with the whole Blaster Javelin thing. You can make this a Blitz order, but just keep in mind, if you happen to top deck the Blitz order of a Javelin's effect, you will lose Blaster Dark's effect. So sadly enough, it's the biggest downside of that ride line, is you have that off chance, that one-off chance that you'll just happen to top deck the Blitz order and then nothing happens. But I've been fine with it like this, but you probably do want the Blitz order. I've been running like this basically since start. Like, it's always been like this. I've had no issues, but you never know. So that's just something to keep track of. That's all the ones. We're going into the zeros now. I run the vanilla OT. I've been on and off between the Keter and this one. The Keter OT makes more sense in the old builds, because the old builds didn't have the extra drive checks off of Dark with the new promo, but now we have extra drive checks basically on a Vanguard and Rear Guard, and because of that, I actually don't think you need the even more drive checks on top of that. This deck runs a lot less grade 3s now. It used to run more. It used to run the girl looks at top card. Now we only have this. This is really the only card that like enables that, and also Drilling isn't as prevalent now. Dueling was another card that could randomly high roll you into like random cards on the board, but since we don't have that anymore, I honestly think the vanilla T is just better. Vanilla T was already kind of like a 50-50 before, but now I think it's more of like an 80-20. I think this one's just better in most situations. Basically, you know, you swing with your quad drive, put the 100 mil on your blaster dart, put the 100 mil on Emmeline. Your opponent has 2 blaster dart, you hit the 100 mil goes on himself, 100 mil will go on the Emmeline, and then boom bam. So really useful. And then we have crits. I'm running 8s right now. Honestly, I'm probably gonna go back to 7 and have the extra draw. The extra draw is just so important. That you actually kind of want it. Right now I'm running the 8-3, but to be honest, I'm probably gonna go back to having this be like this more, or you know, like this basically. I just think I think the extra draw is pretty massive. I think the draws or fronts, whatever you choose to go for. I think it's important. This deck, like I said, has a really hard time if Mulligan sucks, and when Mulligan sucks, you really have to rely on basically everything else. And if you have to rely on everything else, then the draw will come through. There's been so many games where I'm like, oh my god, my hand sucks, and then I go like drive check draw later on, and then my hand gets fixed, and then suddenly I'm back in the game. It does happen, so I actually think the draws are super massive. And then last but not least, I just run 4 heals. I actually just don't have the Keter heals, like the crit ones. I'm not a big Keter player, so I just don't own them. But I would honestly, if it was like ideal and this was like competition, I'd probably have 1 crit heal here and have these be regular. Especially going into the meta that we're about to go into, which is a very Zorga heavy meta and Gandiva meta. You definitely want the crit heal here. So that's basically that. And yeah, that's the whole deck. Now that we've done that, I will show you a quick ideal board state. Or maybe I'll do a Mulligan and just kind of I hope that I don't like super whiff. And I can kind of show you guys what a typical Mulligan does look like, or what you kind of want to go for. So we do have to roll a dice here. It is kind of important. I'll roll my Dalgu dice. I got a 1. I got 3, so they'll be going first. So since we are going second, we're probably gonna send back these 2, just the triggers, and then draw 2. That is not the greatest Mulligan, to be honest with y'all, but it's okay. We do have the promo, which is nice, but we don't have anything else. So, but we'll see. Well, we still got a couple turns here to kind of fix it. OT is fine. It's, you know, it's still 50k shield, so early on we can deal with some pressure. So that the other world. So here we have our good old Thagrea starter, and my opponent went, they drew, they did their thing, they wrote up, and it's our turn. Oh, okay, well that kind of fixes it. We're actually gonna go ahead and just drop the Perfect Guard here and be super greedy here. Oh, it's even better. So we can actually kind of just plop this down and just go in for 18, because this does get the 2k. Opponent will probably, they'll have a hard time guarding here. So probably gonna take it, and then we're gonna take 1, and then we're gonna go. I will discard this to ride into Dark. Use Javelin's effect first to rest, and then we'll pop this to pop something on the opponent's side, and this gets the extra drive. Go ahead and call this. This is kind of where that soul really comes in handy. We'll look at top 5, and we'll whiff. We're about to go back in and look at top 5 again here with the other side. And this is when this engine of having the double comes up, because if we were 1 soul short, we could still call the Emmeline, but we would have nothing to really do with it. So again, we'll just Soul Blast. Look at that. So do we have an main in hand? I don't remember. We don't have an main in hand. Honestly, we could just be cheesy and call it to the board and use it for retire, or better yet, if we could get the could pick up the persona. We actually already have persona, so yeah, we'll go ahead and just call this to the board. I don't really want to call it to hand, though as nice as it would be to call to hand. I'd rather just have the attackers for next turn if we need it, or have it as a retire cost if we need it there as well. So here comes the fun part. We're gonna go ahead and call the Javelin back here. So now everything basically hits over except for this one right here. Up to you how you want to swing, but if we swing Van first, both of these actually go up by 5. So this is 20 with Twin Drive. So here's check 1, there's check 2. Not the best checks. This one up 5 says swing for 15, and then this went up. This is 20, 25 with the Vanguard. Very good early rush. Honestly, just very ideal. This is like a really good setup. Our opponent goes, they'll probably give us a damage here. We'll probably take out, oh my gosh, this is very terrible damage to have, but it's fine. We have nothing to really guard with, to be honest with you, so we kind of just eat a lot of stuff. We might even have to double intercept here to survive. We'll draw get another copy. We'll drop Maple here since we are gonna go into riding, and then actually Maple will just go and come out. Though we're honestly probably not gonna use her because we're gonna be calling over anyway. We could just call her back here. Just because why not? And then we'll go ahead and use this effect again to look at top 5. Probably gonna whiff, yeah. This has been an Emmeline whiff game. A lot of it's because we actually drew into a lot of the blasters. The only thing that's like really in here is the persona, so that's probably why we're not really seeing too much. And actually smarter would be to call it here, and then we call this girl out. Sadly here we're gonna just have to swing with the rear guard with her. Actually I guess yeah, this is probably more ideal because she'll stack. So we'll swing, boost it here, and then swing with Van, activate the ability to put this on standby, get out our dark here, use the dark's ability to counterblast, retire this to retire something on the opponent's side, activate this, target this, and then now they each get 10k, and this doesn't have the crit, but it does have the 10k, so swing for 23-33 at the Vanguard. This one up 5. They'll do whatever. There's finally our triggers because we have no triggers. So you just distribute the power where you want. This does have twin drive right now, so it's kind of up to you where you want to put the power. This is only going to be 20, so it might be wise to put maybe the power here, because chances are they probably PG this, so you know, give power here, crit here, it's up to you. But and we got another, so again, just like stack it wherever. Then we swing with this, we discard for the cost of the girl, and then we have another twin drive coming. So here's 1, there's 2, another crit, so wherever they decide to put this here, we can put it here, and then finally we'll swing here and then let this die, and that ends our turn. Hand's not looking too good. We will probably eat 2 here, and again hit no defenses because I don't know why, but the defenses are against us. We have no PGs, no defenses, no nothing. This is pretty rough. Hopefully we survive. If we do survive, we basically just reset up, draw, persona, draw, and we actually probably die here. I'm not even gonna lie. This is like a very rough situation to be in. We'd have to do something like this, swing with the rears, swing with this to then kill both of them. This is the situation where like this is like last resort stuff. You can pop this, pop that, do the twin drive here, power draw, do heal, and then put it all here and then swing with this, and that stays on the board now, which is really bad because if it's on the board and it gets bomb deck, we lose here. But anyway, so say we just do that and then we die. That's basically it. We do have persona, so I actually would have had 1 extra card in hand, so this would have been probably in hand because I would have had the Maple. But that's basically a quick mulligan run. I will say we didn't see a single copy of Nemain that game, which really hurt us. And like I said, depending on your mulligan, that will happen. And that's where the deck starts really falling off. We also damaged not 1, but 2 of the promo, which is really bad to damage because that's basically your constant engine. That's like the last card you want to see in the damage. That's actually why we kept her in our mulligan originally. But we did see ideal board state, but the ideal board state, just to kind of re-show it a little bit here, but typically what you want board state to look like is basically like this. This is ideal board state right here. So this, and the reason why is because this is going to be going up in power. This is the thing will get you out the Blaster Dark. You'll use this to target the Blaster Dark's effect, and it's just ideal. So you swing with her, you kill her, get the Dark out when you swing with Van, use his ability to pop this out, and then use her ability to stack him. And then basically you'll have your drives, whatever, and this is going up in power as you keep playing. And then here, this will have the extra drives, and then you'll finish off this way. That's basically the ideal board state that you always want to maintain as much as possible. This will self-retire. Will usually leave you like this, which is actually just a really good state to be in. Usually you'll have a pretty good hand size. Unlike the Little Mulligan I showed, it wasn't the best in terms of hand size, but this is typically how you want to have it. And then you guys saw the turn 2 play. Honestly, that was pretty ideal. That's usually how your turn 2 will usually go. The only thing we were missing the whole game, like I said, was Nemain. And usually Nemain will show up, but for some reason we just didn't see her. We also didn't see like any triggers except for the crits in a very weird spot. But that's basically it. Maybe our opponent died there, maybe they didn't. But we had no shield the entire game because we drew into literally no shield. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. If you have played the deck or are playing the deck or currently testing the deck, let me know your thoughts below, how you feel about the deck. If you need the cards, you can shop at 50cards.shop, code orange for all that kind of stuff, for all those goodies. If you choose to swap decks, like say you want to play Majesty or Blaster, you'll have majority of the core if you just want to swap decks. So to those people that are maybe a little concerned about this promo, she can be played in both decks, so you're essentially buying her for 2 decks, not just 1. And that's just something to kind of keep in mind. So it might make it a little easier for you. This is pretty good in Majesty War Blaster, so you can honestly swap between decks. And that, guys, that's all I got for you. So peace out. Das Vidania. See you guys in the future video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until the next one. Bye.